Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Martine, and if you are new here, I do videos on Vedic astrology mainly, but also with some tropical influences. I focus on both relationship and natal astrology. And if you like this video and you would like to hear more content from me, please like, subscribe, hit the notifications bell to see when I will post a new video. And if you're interested in a personal consultation, I do personal consultations on a variety of subjects. Please email me at the email address that I will leave in the video description. Thank you. So for today's topic, I decided to continue the transits video for 2021. They are a little bit late, apologies for that. For next year's transit videos, I should probably be starting around December, so please remind me if you're still around by that time. I will be doing this video, as I announced in the previous one, on Leo Ascendant. And also the next video that I will be making, like I said, based on extracting a ticket from a bowl of tickets, I will be talking about Aquarius Ascendant for 2021. But for now, let me get into Leo Ascendant in 2021, or Leo Lagna, as it is called in Vedic astrology. So as an introduction, I have divided the year into two separate charts. I will be looking at Jupiter, Saturn, Rahu, Ketu, also Pluto a little bit, because as I mentioned, I do also look at some tropical placements. But mostly it's Saturn, Rahu, Jupiter, and Ketu, because these are the four main independent influences on 2021 that are general enough to be described without knowing anything other than the ascendant sign of a person, meaning for a more personalized interpretation, you would have to, know individual transits and planetary placements. So I have divided this into two charts. One of them is for when Saturn and Jupiter and Pluto are conjunct in Capricorn, and the second chart will be for the periods of 2021 when Jupiter will move into Aquarius. As you can see, chart 1 will come into play from around January 1st to around April 5th, 2021. September 14th, also from September 14th to November 20th, 2021. So this is, like I said, when Jupiter is in Capricorn, as you can see on the screen. In general, though, for the entire year, Rahu will stay in Taurus and Ketu will stay in Scorpio. This is true for both chart 1 and chart 2. So Rahu in Taurus will fall into your 10th house for you Leo Ascendant people. So it will be aspecting the 2nd, the 6th houses, also the 4th house where Ketu sits, but since Ketu is there, I will be looking at it more from Ketu's perspective. So Rahu will be aspecting the 10th, the 2nd, the 6th houses. As you can see on the chart, I have painted the aspects of Rahu by the color pink. And all the other colors are, gray for Saturn, yellow for Jupiter, and blue for Ketu, respectively. So where you see these colors, these are the houses that will be aspected by those particular planets. So Rahu aspecting all these houses are all career houses, sitting in your 10th house and signifying foreign influence shows me that there will be some kind of foreign influence on your career this year. So most likely what this means is foreign opportunities of employment. If you have your own business or side hustle, it could show that you will have increased opportunities from foreign lands this year coming to you. Another thing that it can show is, obviously, on your part, there will be a sudden interest towards matters of career and reputation, maybe more than in the previous year. And another thing that it can show is you can gain money from anything to do with IT, electronics, electricity in general, technology, state-of-the-art technology, all of these things. But I will get into more details on how Rahu influences every house a bit later. This is overall for the entire year. Another thing that I can say is Ketu falls in Scorpio in your 4th house, and it will aspect the 8th and the 12th houses as well. So all of the water houses are aspected by Ketu in your case, which shows me that this year you will have an increase in intuition and emotion-related issues. It could show that you're going to be more sensitive to your environment, especially in the home. So any kind of like difficulties around the home, surrounding the family, will be felt in an even more heightened way. Another thing that it could show is that there will be a kind of detachment from the family, or a feeling of detachment towards even the place of origin. So if you still live in your homeland, you might feel an urge to break away, or to break away from your past, from your traditions. It can also show a time of healing. So it's a good time to do things like psychotherapy, or any kind of therapy that works on the emotions, on healing past traumas and all this stuff. This is going to be a good time. It's a good time for cleansing from a spiritual, emotional point of view. On a more physical sense, what it shows is you have a need to bring religion, or your belief system, or spirituality in general, not necessarily an organized religion, but whatever your religious beliefs are, you will feel a need to bring those into your home. So it could be like decorating things with crystals and incense and tarot cards and all that stuff. You will feel an increased need for your comfort in the home. You will feel the need to, bring these items into your house. And this is also a good time to pay attention to these issues. So it's a good time to not mess with any kind of things like conjurings or any such things, because you are especially susceptible to malefic influences, since you are very open intuitively and energetically at this time. So I would rather suggest that you just focus on habits that bring positivity with regards to your spiritual beliefs. So it doesn't matter what your spiritual beliefs are. A spiritual routine could definitely help you throughout this year. But make sure that they are positive reinforcements. Things that don't increase paranoia or conjure spirits or anything like that. Right. Another thing that I can say, let me see. Right. So because during this time, during the chart 1 phase, Saturn, Jupiter, and Pluto are all together in the 6th house. The 6th house will become the main focus. So moving into the more specific description of the chart 1 phase right now. So the 6th house will be the primary focus during this time, which is the house of health. It is the house of everyday routine. It's also the house that signifies jobs, as opposed to the 7th, which signifies business. So this is the time when your job becomes, you will really feel responsibilities in the job, in the workplace, increasing. It is also the house of hidden enemies, and actually not hidden enemies, literally the house of enemies. Hidden enemies are 12th house. So as you can see, Saturn, Jupiter are aspecting both the 6th and the 12th house for Leo Ascendant. So Saturn actually promises to rid you of your enemies, but this is most likely going to happen during the 2nd chart phase, because during this time in the chart 1 phase, you also have Jupiter aspecting, which actually can aid your enemies in some way, but it is still mostly beneficial for you because Saturn is really strong. It's in Capricorn, and Jupiter is weakened, being in detriment. Another thing that I can say is that, as I've written there, Saturn rules the 6th, the 7th houses. The 7th house is the house of business, like I said. So this could also show that you will have an opportunity to maybe start your own business at this time. Of course, it also depends on personal transits and mahadashas and all that stuff. But another thing that it can show is that you can start a side hustle, more likely, or you can start to, sort of, how should I put it, make the first steps, set the first bricks of a future business during this time. Maybe it won't take off necessarily, but this is a good time to start because the 7th is in the 6th house. And another thing that I can say is, because Saturn rules the 6th, Jupiter rules the 5th and the 8th houses, I can see that there will be opportunities of bringing creativity into either your work or whatever your daily routine is. You will feel the need to bring creative activities, and this will do you good. So it will be a good time, and also the 8th house being the house of transformation, it can show that this is a great time to rethink your daily routine and figure out a routine that is good for your health, improving your health. This is great for, getting fit, for instance. And it's also some kind of transformation possibly linked to your pets. This could be a good time to get a pet if you've considered getting one before. If you already have one, though, it could be that somehow there will be increased responsibilities connected to your pet. But most likely it will show something to do with your pet. So like pets will be an issue, will be a concern, as well as your workplace. The bottom line is that, and I have mentioned this before, Saturn is a planet that will want you to work hard for you to get results. So Saturn is not about wishy-washy or good luck or anything like that. So whatever house Saturn aspect will be an area where you need to work. You really need to put your effort, you need to plan carefully. You cannot leave anything to chance or good luck. Even though Saturn is conjunct Jupiter, don't rely on that because Jupiter is weakened, like I have said. Saturn here has the upper hand in that conjunction. So bottom line is that all those houses where you see some gray influence, those are areas of your life that you will need to be particularly careful about, and you will be forced either by circumstance or by force of your own conscience to pay extra attention to and work extra hard to make sure that everything is right. This is, since Saturn falls into your 6th house and it will stay in your 6th house throughout the entire year, this is a great year to focus on any kind of health issue that you might have. So any kind of chronic ailment, like I said, could be just fitness, health, diet, change your diet, your sleep regime, anything you can do to improve your health. And also your mental health, because the 8th house is also the house of psychology, and it also is the house of sexuality. So any kind of issues that you might have connected to your mental health, this is a great time to take care of that. So this is what I can say about the 6th house mainly. Right. So moving on into all the other houses that are particularly aspected by these transits. The 2nd house, as you can see there, is aspected by Rahu and Jupiter, because you see the pink and the yellow. It enforces the theme of, money coming from unusual sources. It also shows an improved financial situation because Jupiter is aspecting the second house. It also can show literally, and this is true for throughout the year, Rahu aspecting the second can show some kind of foreign influence coming into the family. This could literally mean that, some, relative that lives abroad will come and visit you, or it can be somebody will marry a foreigner in your family, or somehow there will be some kind of something foreign aspecting your family. And also, but Jupiter being there also shows that relations with the family of origin will be pretty positive during this time. So, right, moving on. Third house aspected by Saturn. As you can see, the gray over there will show increased focus on your part and purposefulness. You will find it easier to focus on your goals, and you will be more patient and perseverant. Because if you are not, Saturn will slap you around a little bit. So, it goes back to what I said previously, that Saturn will want to see you put in the work into all these areas that it aspects. So you need to be careful about these areas. Also, Saturn aspecting the third will show that your speech will sort of become decreased, in the sense that you should be careful about how you use your words during this time, and make sure that you don't blurt out things that will turn against you in the long term. Okay, so moving on, fourth house. As you can see, Ketu is in the fourth house, like I said previously. It will show an increased intuition, like I mentioned previously, but it also shows, also like I mentioned previously, it shows a desire to start maybe decorating your house in a way that shows your spiritual beliefs. You will be tempted to bring in things like, things that are of religious or spiritual significance, like amulets, incense, candles, tarot cards, dream catchers, the works. The sixth house I talked about. So the eighth house also, as you can see, is aspected by Saturn and Ketu. It shows devotion to a spiritual practice, most likely on your part, and this is a good thing. So this is where you are encouraged to be serious about a spiritual subject, because both Saturn and Ketu are there influencing it. But another thing that it can show is there might be difficulties to do with your joint finances. So if you're married, or you have joint finances with anybody, this will be a time of hardships. Ketu being there will show a dissolution of things. It can also show, on a positive note, it can show the fact that if you have a loan or something, or if you have a mortgage, it can show a decrease in your mortgage, or a decrease of your loan or any kind of debt that you might have. But on the other hand, whatever debt you might have, or any debt that you might incur during this time, will feel like a pretty big burden. So the bottom line is that you need to be careful about your finances and your expenses. And it will also most likely become more difficult for you to take out a loan during this time. Right. 10th house, as you can see, so Rahu is sitting in the 10th house, and I did talk about this before. 10th house is also aspected by Jupiter, and it shows increased opportunities in the career, like I said, especially during this time when Jupiter is aspecting it. And also with regards to social status in general. So people will see you as more trustworthy during this time, more attractive. So it will increase your chances of getting a job, for instance, or again, any kind of business that you might have could increase during this time. And with regards to job, like I said, most likely some kind of foreign offer of employment, you can expect that to happen. of course, depending on other placements in your chart as well. The 12th house will be aspected by Jupiter, Saturn, and Ketu, which can show that the losses that you might incur during this time, such as they are, will be less than they are in the chart 2 phase, because at least now Jupiter is aspecting. So you want to be careful about this, because don't make any strange financial decisions. So that's basically what it says. Like, you need to be very careful planning your budget. And what it does show, on a positive note, is that during this time, if your contract ends, for instance, or like if you lose a job or anything, most likely you are more likely to gain something financially from it, like compensations, in terms of compensations, then you are likely to gain them in the second chart phase, because Jupiter is aspecting the 12th now. Pretty much. Okay. And okay, that's pretty much it for chart 1. So, moving on to chart 2, which hopefully you will see on the screen. As I mentioned, the only thing that changes in chart 2 is that Jupiter will fall into your 7th house, which is not a minor issue. As you can see, there will be different aspects on different houses based on the little color scheme. So Jupiter will fall into your 7th house. That is the main change. So Jupiter falling into your 7th and ruling the 5th and the 8th houses in your chart tells me that this is a pretty good time to start a new relationship. For those of you who are looking for a new relationship, especially if you also happen to have love marriage aspects in your chart, in your natal chart, this is a good time to meet somebody, because ruler of the 5th into the 7th, even in a natal chart, shows love marriage. So this is one of those aspects. Unfortunately, if you don't have the aspects for a love marriage, and you have this aspect, maybe if you're already married, there will be a tendency to, have wandering eyes during this time, so be careful with that. Because there will be an increase of bringing fun and spontaneity into your partnerships in general. So you will feel an increased desire for romance in a relationship. Fun and games, passion, all that stuff. Another thing that it can show is some kind of transformation happening with regards to partnership. So, of course, it's pretty difficult to make specific predictions based on the general ascendant. You would have to look at, personal transits as well. But it could technically also show the end of a relationship, because the 8th house falling into the 7th, the 8th is about transformation as well. So that could be one interpretation. And but this is, just to do with relationships. On a financial aspect, this is a positive thing, because the 5th house is, it shows creativity, it shows, can also show speculative gains. So, because Jupiter rules this in your chart, you might want to consider playing the lottery during this time. Obviously, don't risk a fortune, but during this time, you will see an increase of luck. So, higher chances to gain something out of any kind of speculative activities. Also, if you are interested in the stock market, this is a time when you can get into it, because there will be a little bit higher chances of turning it into a profitable activity. But overall, what it shows is that you could have an increase of business. So as opposed to the chart 1 phase, and during this phase, you can see a boost in any side hustle or business that you might have. So if you already have your own business, you can expect it to get better during this time. Finances will increase, cash flow will increase. If you don't have your own business, you can consider starting one during this time, again, provided that you already have some influences that show whether you would be good at starting a business or not in your natal chart. Pretty much. But during this time, just looking at this one aspect, Jupiter in the 7th, can be a good time for any kind of self-starting activity to bring you money, pretty much. The other, let me see. Also, I did forget to mention this, but you can see it written on the screen. This applies for the time frame from around April 5th to around September 14th, 2021, and from around November 20th until December 31st, 2021. Saturn Pluto will stay in Capricorn, as you can see, together with Rahu in the 6th, and will continue to aspect the 12th. Checking my notes. 10th house will lose, as you can see there on the screen, will lose the Jupiter's aspect. So the career and work reputations will, I wouldn't say they would take a hit, but they're not going to be as good as they were during the chart 1 phase. So expect opportunities for employment to slow down during this time. So if you want to get a new job or start a new venture, you have to be particularly ready to do so in the chart 1 phase. But, the 10th house, still being aspected by Rahu will still show potential foreign offers for you. So there's that positive aspect. And Jupiter instead will aspect the 11th house now, which shows an increase of financial gains. And this is basically the time to reap what you sow during the phase when you have invested more in your career. So, of course, be careful with what you invest and how much you invest, because if you haven't invested that much into your career, you haven't put enough effort, obviously there will be less for you to reap during this time. And also, it will increase opportunities for socializing and increasing your social circle. Because 11th house is the house of acquaintances and a larger social circle. And the 12th house, let me see, will lose the Jupiter aspect as well, which can show an increase of losses or expenditures as well as increased pessimism to some extent. But not to despair too much. Again, you just have to be careful with your finances and plan your budget. And the first house, on the other hand, will receive the aspect of Jupiter, will increase your image. So an increase of optimism in your self-image and your circumstances, because the first house is the status quo. So you will be seen as a more knowledgeable, jovial person, which can, again, boost your reputation in the world. But it can also show a tendency towards self-indulgence, so be careful with that, especially if you're trying to get fit. And third house will get a boost from the Jupiter aspect, because, the second house loses it. So family relations will be a little less optimistic and less pleasurable during this time, but nothing particularly negative, really. Well, there might be a bit of a bit more distance between you and your family of origin during this second chart phase. Right, but Jupiter aspecting the third house will increase travel within the borders of your country of residence. So expect increase of travel opportunities, at least, even things like commute to work, errands, and also it will increase your optimistic, enterprising spirit, which again is good for any kind of business thing that you might have going on. And let me see. Right, and as a final note, in continuation to what I said for chart 1, because Jupiter leaves the 6th house and will no longer aspect the 12th house, most likely your enemies will be removed. So any kind of conflicts that you may have had during this, I don't know, past year, will most likely resolve in your favor. Again, normally you would also have to look at, personal transits, personal charts, and more personalized aspects, but overall that's what it means. So most likely, if you have had any kind of conflicts, they will resolve naturally. All you have to do is to just focus on doing the right thing and minding your business and working hard and being disciplined. That's what Saturn likes. As long as you behave in a way that Saturn likes, you will be rewarded accordingly. So yeah, that's pretty much it. This has been my interpretation. I hope you liked it. And as I mentioned before, if you liked the video and you would like to hear more content from me, please like, subscribe, hit the notifications bell, and if you wanna get a personal consultation, please email me at the email address that I left in the video description. And also, any kind of feedback, of course, would be great. I would be grateful for it, or any kind of ideas that you want to communicate with regards to future topics that you would like me to cover in future videos. Please comment in the comment section. So, thank you.